The apple doesn't fall far from the tree is an ancient proverb that is known to date back to the 1500s in Germany, and then later was introduced into the English language in the mid-1700s. But I don't actually want to talk about the history of this proverb today. Instead, I would much rather like to share something with you that has reminded and most importantly inspired me, and hopefully you can find a bit of inspiration from it yourself. If you've been following this channel for some time now, you will know that there was a time when no one wanted to hire me. While it was a very frustrating situation for me having to depend on my wife to be the breadwinner for the family, who at the same time was struggling with her health, I didn't sit on the sofa turning my thumbs doing nothing, which I know many of my wife's friends were assuming, telling her that I should get a job already. While looking for work and completing application after application, I also got very engaged in teaching myself new skills and distracting myself from what everyone else was saying or thinking of me. While I was struggling with the situation mentally, I was sent a podcast episode by my good friend Aimer, in which they were talking about planting. To be specific, they were talking about planting bamboo. The way I remember it is that it takes 5 or more years for bamboo to sprout and grow into a mature plant. And while the farmers came to maintain the land day in and day out, people watching asked the farmers what they were hoping for, as nothing seems to be growing. But the farmers responded saying something on the lines of, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that nothing is happening. Let me just say that I'm not entirely sure if this is exactly how it went, but that's at least how I remember it. I felt quite inspired by this story. In fact, I was so inspired that I took an avocado seed, put it in some water and watched it grow into a small tree. For the longest time, nothing was actually happening. And then all of a sudden, the roots started growing, and then 1 leaf, 2 leaves. I used it as a visual reference for myself, that the things that I was doing to better myself and finding work was not in vain, despite what everybody else was saying behind my back. From the avocado, I then graduated to building a small vegetable patch, growing our own food for the first time ever. When I did sit on the sofa, I was watching documentaries and tutorials, further enhancing my knowledge and skills. I built a chicken coop that was mainly used for food storage out of wood. The chickens that I did hatch in an incubator were all roosters, and while I was prepared to be eating the probably best and most delicious chicken we would have ever eaten, Carolina saved them from butchering in the last minute. I learned how to build a barbecue smoker from old oil drums that I got supplied by someone locally. I was welding and making a lot of noise, but once it was finished, it looked amazing. I learned about mead or honey wine and how it is far more sustainable and easy to make without compromising on taste compared to beer. I wanted to try make some, and since then I've probably come up with about 10 different recipes. There were a lot of failures along the process of learning these skills. One of the biggest probably bottling the meat with the fermentation process still going and having bottles explode. I talked about this one in several of my videos. I managed to get sponsorship for a film and video editing course in London that led to the creation of my YouTube channel. As a result, I was able to make a video for a weekend trip my wife went on together with some other ladies, and thought I would be able to use it as a promotion for my video editing services to help out with the bills again. But one lady was concerned about GDPR and I had to take the video down. But it was that same lady that hired and paid me for my first ever film shoot a few months later. That led me to find more and more clients, that eventually led me to working with Stuart Epps on music videos for unsigned artists. But before working with Stuart full-time, I did find a job and got hired for 9 to 5. Despite all the skills that I had learned along the way and had the slightest to do with the job that I was going to be doing, I do believe that somehow the work that I put in behind the scenes was able to shine through when turning up to that interview, just like the seed growing under the ground. Does that make sense to you? Also, you know what would be really great? If you hit that like button so YouTube could show this video to more people. Now back to the apples in the tree. You see, I have my second oldest daughter who was sick of asking us for money to buy what she wanted and was determined she would find a job at the local outlet where her older sister also was able to find a job. But for 18 months after application and application, not even McDonald's wanted to hire her, and I felt for her frustration. But very much like myself, she indulged herself into learning new skills, some of which I was a test bunny for, such as having my hair cut, which was convenient since, we were in the midst of a lockdown at the time. She learned how to put on makeup on others, and whilst I'm personally not into makeup, she does an amazing job. She taught herself to crochet within a few days and made some absolutely amazing garments and hats that she managed to sell to her peers and on platforms like Etsy. She was doing this and much more, while still looking for a job, receiving decline after decline by email or after an interview. But she kept on applying when eventually she was in a position where she had to pick one of 3 job offers. I believe she chose wisely, working in food and beverage with a team that have made her feel welcome and valued, with fair pay while still giving her the flexibility that she desires. I know I'm very biased, but I'm very proud to see that she stuck with it and never gave up, just like her parents. I couldn't be prouder of what she has achieved. In fact, I couldn't be proud of all my children, who seem to be very much like us despite them denying it. Those friends of ours, I don't think they're speaking to us anymore. But in any case, I also had some really great news the other day, for which I will be traveling to Canada. You can check that video out right here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please remember to hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Stay positive and motivated, and I shall see you in the next one.